Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining today. Apologies about that. I think there were some technical issues at the beginning. Hopefully you are all able to see my screen. So what we will do is we will get going. So just a little bit about what we'll be talking about. So today you are all attending a webinar on how to fuel yourself correctly. So we will be looking at the Eat Well guide and what a healthy balanced diet looks like. We'll then be talking about the benefits and how nutrition can affect you. We'll then talk about the impacts of poor diet and take a little bit of a look at energy balance. Next, we will talk about energy demands and how you know how much you should be eating. Then we've got some tips on how to have a healthy, balanced lifestyle with 5 tips for you to take away. Then we've also got some recipe ideas and some swaps as well. So what does a balanced diet look like? Some of you may be familiar with this. So this is something called the Eat Well guide. The Eat Well guide is basically a representation of what our food and meals should look like across the day. It doesn't matter if every single meal doesn't look like this. It's essentially just what your plate should look like across the day. So what I'll do is I'll go through each section in a bit more detail. But before we go on to fruit and vegetables, did you know that only 33% of adults are currently eating their 5 a day? That is really important to try and get your 5 a day, ideally to try and eat a rainbow, lots of different colours of fruit and vegetables. They all contain different vitamins and minerals, which are all really important for the functioning of our bodies. Fruit and vegetables are also very high in fibre, so this is what helps to keep us regular and helps to keep our bowel movements regular, and also for good digestive and gut health. A portion of fruit and vegetables is approximately about 80 grams, so this is about a handful, and you can have fresh, frozen or canned fruit and vegetables. If you are having canned fruit, try and steer away from canned fruit in syrup and opt for those in water instead. Next is the starchy carbohydrate section. So this is things like your bread, your rice, your pasta. Ideally here we want to be having the whole grain varieties. So this is like your whole grain bread, your brown rice, brown pasta. This is because these are higher in starchy carbohydrates than your typical white bread and your white starches, your white carbohydrates. So the whole grains being higher in starch essentially helps to keep you fuller for longer and will prevent you from having that spike in energy. The white carbs kind of give you more of an instant boost. Whole grains can also help with your digestive system by removing toxins. And they are also high in fibre and also B vitamins as well. Next, we'll move on to the dairy and alternative section. So this is kind of your milks, your cheeses, your yogurts. Where possible here, you should be trying to have your lower fat, lower sugar versions. Your dairy provides you with protein, which is really important for the growth and maintenance of your muscles, but also calcium and vitamin D, which are really important for bone health. If you are someone that drinks alternative milk, so doesn't drink cow's milk, so has things like soy milk, oat milk, do check that they are fortified with calcium and vitamin D. These nutrients are naturally occurring in cow's milk, but not in the alternative. So it's just important to make sure that you're not going to be deficient in these by having the alternative milks. That's just an example of what a portion is of some of the products that fall into this category. Next, we have the protein section. So a lot of people are quite surprised at how small this section actually is. Ideally, we should be aiming for about 2 to 3 portions across the day. Some people decide to split this out into 5 different portions, kind of having more at their 3 meal times and then some in the morning and also afternoon snack. Again, here we want to be trying to have those lower fat options where possible. So if you're buying mince, try and buy your 5% rather than your 20% fat mince. Proteins also, some of them also contain omega-3s. So I'll bring up some examples of those now. Omega-3 and 6 are really important for your brain and cognitive function. Iron is important for the transportation of nutrients within the blood. And then obviously I mentioned protein earlier, but it's really important for the growth and repair of muscle tissue. Protein doesn't always mean meat. You can see on here we've got some pictures of things like pulses, beans, lentils, as well as eggs and fish as well. Just carrying on from that, there are also lots of different types of plant proteins. A lot of people think that you can't get all the protein you require from a vegan or vegetarian diet, but actually this is incorrect. There's lots of different plant sources out there, and as you can see on the table, the comparison between the plant proteins and chicken. They also can provide fibre, vitamins and minerals, and tend to be lower in fat as well. They're really easy if you're cooking at home. Perhaps you're making a stew or a curry, just pop in a can of chickpeas or kidney beans, and it's a way to boost not only the protein, but also the fibre content. Beans and pulses tend to be cheaper than meat as well, so that's a good cost saving too. Then we've got the oils and spreads section. So this is the smallest section on the plate. Here we want to be aiming for the items in the purple column. So these are your unsaturated fats. These can help maintain your normal blood cholesterol levels, whereas saturated fats can actually increase your blood cholesterol, which is high blood cholesterol is an increased risk for heart disease. One thing you might see that's interesting on there is coconut oil. So that falls under a saturated fat. Lots of people like to cook with it. There's quite a lot of information about there saying that it's very healthy, but actually it is really high in saturated fat. So that's just something to be mindful of there. You then, in your unsaturated, want to be aiming for things like your olive oil, your rapeseed oil, and also your sunflower oil. Nuts are on there. They're also a good source of protein, but do try and buy the dry roasted versions rather than your salted flavoured nuts there. You'll also see avocados and oily fish too. Next is a section that doesn't feature on the plate, but it's probably everyone's favourite. It's all those foods high in fat, salt and sugars. So ideally, we need to be eating these in smaller amounts and also infrequently. I'm not going to say you can't be having chocolate, sweets and biscuits. I love cake as much as the next person, but it's just all about moderation and making sure that we're not having it every day. Especially if you eat a lot of things like mayonnaise, could you possibly swap to a lighter mayonnaise variety? Again, if you're having lots of crisps, there's lots of baked and popped varieties out on the market. So can you reach for them as a snack instead? So yeah, just some little swaps that you can be making there. So then we'll go on to salt. So salt intakes can increase your risk of high blood pressure and also treble your risk of heart disease and stroke. Ideally, we should be having no more than 6 grams a day. So this includes salt added, kind of found naturally in food, and also the salt you add through your salt shaker. We make sure that all of our recipes are nutritionally analysed, and our chefs don't add any salt to any of our recipes. But what this does do is kind of gives you the opportunity to add that if you would like. And when cooking at home, try and reach for herbs and spices as a way of flavouring your food before adding salt. Herbs and spices are a really good way of adding flavour to your food, but without the salt element. So then just a bit about staying hydrated. This is sort of a sliding scale of the drinks that you should be having over to the ones it's best to avoid. So it's best to be getting your fluid intake from water, but people can also have things like milk. If you do like to drink milk, try and have the lower fat versions. Try not to be having lots of gold top and whole milk. Again, teas and coffees, these count towards your fluid intake. But again, if you are having a lot of sugar or a lot of milk in your coffee, that's just something to be mindful of. And also the caffeine as well. So caffeine as a diuretic can increase your chance of getting dehydrated. So try and make sure that you are having enough water and not just cups of coffee to get you through the day. No added sugar squash is a good thing to be adding to water if you don't like kind of the taste of plain water, or you find yourself buying those flavoured waters in the shop. Then got things like smoothies and fruit juices. So these can count towards one of your 5 a day, and also a good way to kind of keep you hydrated. But yes, try not to be having lots of like high fat milkshakes and things like that. And also lots of sugary drinks. Your zero options or your diet options are a lot better than the full fat, full sugar Coke. But yeah, these should be had in moderation, and try to limit the sugary ones due to the obviously very high sugar levels, which in turn can lead to weight gain. Next, we have Lucozade Sport, so kind of sports energy drinks. These are only really needed if you're carrying out endurance sport. You don't need to be having these every day, especially if you're not particularly active. These should be left for those carrying out endurance sport. And then Monster as well. So Monster energy drinks and equivalents can be very high in sugar, but also very high in caffeine. So just something to be mindful of there if you do find yourself reaching for a Monster. If you find that you're relying on energy drinks quite a lot, it probably might be a good idea to look at your diet. Are you fueling yourself enough? Are you eating enough at lunch? Are you giving yourself kind of that balanced diet, which is, if you're not having that, that might be what's making you quite tired and needing that energy boost. Ideally, we should be aiming for about 1.5 to 2 litres of water each day. In hot weather, or if you're carrying out a lot of exercise, this will need to be increased. But yes, that's sort of the ballpark figure. Then what are the benefits of a balanced diet? So it can help you maintain a healthy weight, lower risk of developing some illnesses and diseases, can help your body to stay healthy and overall benefit your health and well-being for both your body and your brain. A good balanced diet can help you improve your recovery time when you're unwell, and linked to that, help to prevent illnesses and infections in the first place. Good nutrition and a balanced diet is what's going to fuel you throughout the day. If you find days where you're not able to eat enough food, you might find yourself really tired, struggling to concentrate. Again, which that links me on to reducing your tiredness and fatigue, also help to prevent work-related injuries, and again, is really important for the renewal and repair of your body cells and tissue. Other additional benefits include good digestive health, so that's if you're making sure that you're eating enough fibre, good sleep as well. If you're eating a good diet, not eating too close to bedtime, this can help with better sleep. Ideally, you want to be having a food rich in protein and carbohydrates before bed, as this is thought to be linked to the role of the production of serotonin, which is the chemical that kind of helps us get to sleep. It can also increase your focus and your productivity as well if you're correctly fueled, and also improve your mood too. So then what are the impacts of a poor diet? So around 64% of adults are currently classified as overweight or obese in the UK. So understanding energy balance and how much you need to be consuming is really important. So on the screen here, we have 3 different boxes. Ideally, that central green box is what we want to be aiming for. So this is where you're eating the right amount for your day-to-day role, and it can also help you maintain a healthy weight. On the right, we have positive energy balance. So essentially, this is you're eating more than you require based on your activity levels. So your body could store the excess energy you're consuming as fat, and in turn lead to weight gain, which can then lead to overweight and obesity. On the flip side, and almost equally important, is negative energy balance. So this is where you're not fueling yourself enough for the activities that you're carrying out. So this could lead to you becoming underweight, but could also increase your risk of illness and infection, increase your chance of having things like stress fractures. So that's why it's really important to be trying to eat the right amount for your activity levels. So just a bit about overweight and obesity. Here are some different health implications for excess consumption of different nutrients. You've got weight gain. Obviously, if you're eating more than you need and more than your body's burning off, you're going to end up putting on weight. If you're eating too much saturated fat, this can lead to a rise in your blood cholesterol level, which can increase your risk of heart disease. You've then got too much sugar, which can increase your risk of having things like dental caries and tooth decay. And then salt, so too much salt can increase your blood pressure, and it also increase your risk of heart disease and stroke. So some of those risks I have kind of gone through, but there's some more on the screen now. So poor diet can also lead to different types of cancers, type 2 diabetes, premature death, and overall reduced quality of life. But the good news is that it is largely preventable through having a healthy diet and lifestyle. So following the Eat Well guide, kind of eating around that should help you manage your weight and ensure that you're not putting on excess weight. Then how much should you be eating? There's 2 different factors that affect your energy demands. The first is something called basal metabolic rate. So this is about 75% of your requirement, and essentially it's everything your body needs to keep itself alive. So your heart beating, pumping blood around your body, your lungs breathing, and things like that. So your BMR is affected by your age, your body size, and also your gender. The remaining 25% is something called physical activity level. So this is essentially how active you are. The more active you are, the more you will need to consume. So even though it's only 25%, it can massively affect your energy demand. So that's just something to be mindful of. Have you started training for something? You'll need to be eating more, or perhaps you're injured or ill, you won't need to be eating as much. So what does a good day's eating look like? So obviously I've mentioned having 1.5 to 2 litres of fluids, ideally 2 to 3 portions of protein and dairy each day, trying to consume 30 grams of fibre, so that's really important for our digestive health. Then got around 3 to 4 portions of those starchy carbohydrates, that's kind of your whole grain brown varieties. And then also trying to consume 5 or more portions of fruit and vegetables, and different fruit and vegetables as well. Then just some tips on how to have a balanced lifestyle. So try and exercise regularly. This can help to strengthen your gut wall muscles, which kind of pushes food through the digestive tract. So it can kind of help with cramping, and if you're having any gut issues, constipation, things like that. So exercise is good. Even just getting out for a walk every day, if you're able to, you can really see the benefits. Staying hydrated, I've mentioned, really important. Try and avoid those sugary drinks, and aim for water where possible. Portion size is an important one as well. Try and stick to the Eat Well guide with having 1/3 of your plate carbohydrates. A lot of the time people do load up on carbs, and that's kind of how we see the excess weight gain, because your body's then not burning off all of the energy that you're consuming. Trying to eat a wide variety of fruit and vegetables and aiming for that 5 portions of fruit and veg a day. And then trying to reduce your intake of high fat foods. So this is things like your sweets, your chocolates, cheese is a really big one that's very high in fat. Your body finds it harder to break these foods down. So then just some recipe ideas and some simple swaps. So first, some recipe ideas. So easy to prep the night before, things like overnight oats. I've suggested apple and cinnamon. You could mash up a banana. It's a good alternative to porridge, just adding some water and yogurt or some milk in there to kind of help the oats soak that up. Another good option is Weetabix with some semi-skimmed milk and a handful of berries. So both of these are slow release energy. So the oats and also the Weetabix, so they'll make sure that they keep you full until lunchtime. Then some lunch ideas. So jacket potato with baked beans. Try and buy the reduced sugar or the no added sugar ones. And again, reduced fat cheddar cheese and a side salad. Another option could be a whole grain bagel with something like salmon, reduced fat cream cheese and cucumber, and also a portion of fruit to help you get to that 5 a day. And then perhaps something like grilled chicken and whole grain pasta with sweet potato and steamed vegetables. And then snacks, sometimes we get peckish in the afternoon or to tie us over between breakfast and lunch if we haven't had a filling enough breakfast. Something like a handful of mixed nuts and seeds, maybe some hummus and mixed veg, or kind of some carrot sticks and cucumber. These are all just a few good ideas that kind of help contribute to a balanced diet. And in terms of shopping lists, I've just got some ideas of what you might have and what you could swap them with. So crisps, could you be buying baked or popped varieties? Whole milk, perhaps try, if you are having a lot of milk, can you swap to semi-skimmed milk? Again, baked beans, trying to have the no added sugar and no added salt beans, and then adding your own salt if you find that you need it, but quite often people don't. Then got mayonnaise, reduced fat mayonnaise. This kind of is the case for a lot of sauces out there. I know ketchup you can buy, reduced sugar ketchup, and a lot of the kind of cooking sauces as well, you can get reduced salt versions. White bread for that wholemeal or seedy bread, again, more starchy carbs to help keep you fuller for longer. If you're a fan of things like flavoured fizzy water, these can often be really high in sugars and sweeteners. So try and have the no added sugar squash where you can. You can just buy a big bottle of it and add it to your water as and when you like. And then I mentioned snacking on nuts. Ideally, we don't want to be having things like salted peanuts, but we want to be having dry roasted or kind of the more plain ones there. So those are just a few ideas. So just before I go on to any questions, that was everything that I had to run through today. Some of you may have seen this poster before. This is kind of the wellbeing team at ESS. So we have got an email address which you're able to email us any queries you've got. And also if you would like to book one-to-one sessions, or perhaps you'd like to come onto your unit or your site to do a talk or kind of have a meeting, then that's something we can offer. You'll also probably be aware of the seasonal magazine. If you've kind of signed up to this, that's how you may have found this webinar. But if you have been forwarded this webinar, do drop us an email so that we can send you the link directly to your inbox. And you'll also receive our seasonal magazine. So we're currently working on our autumn edition, which will be coming out in September. And we produce about 4 of these a year, which cover lots of different topics on the wider health and wellbeing agenda. So what I will do is I will just come back to the main screen so that I can see if anyone has asked any questions. But also feel free to drop us an email if you would like to ask a question separately. That's also fine. It doesn't look like any questions are coming in, so I will bring this session to a close. Thank you very much for everyone attending, and again, apologies for those technical issues at the beginning. But yes, I hope you have all got some information to take away and maybe apply to your own diet and kind of have a more balanced diet. And yes, if you do have any questions, do just drop us an email. And thanks again for joining.